Hello, my name is Dominic. I will be talking about online safety in video games. To get us started, let's talk about some recent actions or the roadmap at least. I'm first going to start with the introduction of the thesis paper, which is what the topic is about concerning online safety in video games. Afterwards, I'll talk about the background of video game safety, how safety is maintained in video games, especially I would be focusing more on the online multiplayer genre type. Third would be reasoning why and how this supports my thesis on what it means and stuff like that. The objection, it's going to be focusing on my counterpoint, like, oh, we need to have this or whatnot. And proposals are just some ideas and questions to focus on, figure out like, oh, maybe we should focus on this instead in terms of safety. Now, let's go to the introduction. For the introduction, let's just first follow up on some news involving video game safety or related to it into some way. For the first one, Collective Shout. They're an Australian feminist activist group which got hundreds of adult games like delisted from sites like Steam and itch.io. And they did this by protesting to payment processors to like get them delisted and everything, which had some backlash due to freedom of expression and the idea of then payment processors can choose what or cannot be made. And then next up, Roblox implementing ID and age verifications on their site. I assume with some of you guys, you might have heard of things like Discord, social media platforms having things involving ID or age verification. This would be concerning this topic, as with the recent push of it, age verification, and how the negative backlash of it, there's a need to be talked about. Afterwards, there's the online safety laws pertaining to making the internet safe for kids, which is the catalyst or the reasoning on why we're all having the ID verification, age verification in the first place, or at least a big push on it. Then there's social media platforms having what I just repeated right now with the help of AI, but the problem is the execution of it. Since I would assume that maybe from some media, there's like Discord, there's the big hack of Discord, there's the Persona leak where apparently they were making a government database with like OpenAI, I believe. But that's also the main problem. The sincerity, the focus of are we having our privacy like actually contained? Is it going to be used in some way? It's like getting your information without consent. Then there's what I just said before, making a government database. There's some pictures. This is, I believe, Roblox, and this is Discord's like example. As for what my thesis is, video games are getting too restricted. And for what I mean by this part, it's just what I just said right now with age restrictions, ID verifications. As much as it's on like social media platforms and you might not believe it's connected, you can see Roblox, they have the same methods. What if we need to have this same type of procedures in other games? Does it have to be like necessary to have like age verification, ID verification in order to actually play a game? And if you want to do a multiplayer game, then what type do you want to like focus on? Since there can be like other big problems rather than just this. All right, first up, let's go to the background of video games. For background of safety in video games, there's quite a few, but we're just going to focus on five, which is cyberbullying, which is just bullying online. You probably play like any FPS, any like MMOs, basically online games. You'll probably get something like this if you'll encounter a toxic player. I think everyone met that maybe. There's scams, either be it virtual money, items, or real money. There's in-game purchases, which is predatory monetization in video games like gacha. I have assume you guys have heard of gacha in some way or form, what like pay to win or like gacha games that are famous in Japan a lot, which you can see an example right here. There's toxicity, which is exposure to hurtful, harmful, inappropriate content, be it voice or chat. Since I feel if I assume if you played Call of Duty before or any like old games, there's some rumors or things about like, oh, people have said this before and stuff like that. As for the fifth one, I think that's the main reason why online safety is needed, at least for a valid reason on why it came to be in terms of certain games. Predators, sexual predators, pedophiles. That yeah, people that are engaging with minors in an appropriate manner, which I will talk about on Roblox time. I'll do that in that slide. That's too much. For reasoning one, censorship involving freedom of expression. As I said before, Collective Shout, an Australian feminist activist group, managed to delist a large amount of adult games from video game platforms that contain categories like incest and rape by protesting to payment processors. Now, their goal for Collective Shout is stopping like the sexualification, objectification of women, but their actions caused some consequences in terms of like games that weren't affected. It was just basically this. They protested them to get like games off Steam and itch.io. There's like MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, those things. Now, the problem I believe is on the next page. Here it is. These companies pressure video game platforms to comply with their policies and guidelines in order to be able to keep using their processor in a short time frame. What I mean is, if I remember, is that they told like these video game platforms to be like, oh, you need to listen to these demands, these complies, these guidelines in 2 weeks or in a short amount of time compared to like a usual, okay, do this by this amount of time. Like so short time. Which caused other games to be caught in the crossfire, such as LGBTQIA plus games. Some examples would be Sabbath, which is containing themes of body change and violence because you're making a new body. You're gonna be making some sort of monstrosity in that game, which can be related to transgender players in terms of like meaning or relatability. Like, oh, they might like it. There's Grunge, which contains mature content, including sexual content, but it's just an RPG story following a queer protagonist's high school life with queer love. It's not going to contain any of the things said before, like incest or rape. I don't think it would say contain that. And another one is Consumi, which is just a life simulation game, which is not a not safe for work game, which is one of the reasons why I said games were caught in the crossfire. Some games that were suggestive, maybe like had something wrong, like they had to take it down. Hundreds for Steam, while for itch.io, because it's smaller team and stuff like that, I believe they had to took over 20,000 games out. That's not even including like games like novels and tabletop RPGs because Steam itch.io has other things besides games. The concern, do you want to be told whenever or not you can buy or make video games based on a private company, which is that's what payment processors are, rules rather than just a neutral video game platform with their guidelines like, okay, you can make this, but don't try to promote anything like that. Can talks can topics be explored if we're barred from posting, talking, or creating it? Such as, would you say you would know anything about queer, transgender love, or like any important topics if people just say, no, don't, no, I'm taking this down. No, it's people can't do that. Is it just like topics are removed or brushed off because it's not something to discuss? I mean, for China, there's some examples with like certain words are like censored, like certain days you can't like talk about them. Think of it like video games. With how you want to create something, do you want to invoke a certain topic or concept? But there's also like cons because of you don't want to try to make it political or anything like that. I don't think anyone would want any of their like beloved topics, anything they like, hobbies to turn into a political sense. Okay, next up, reason two, the Online Safety Act. With the proposal of the Online Safety Act in the UK, there have been new proposals and laws happening in other parts of the world later on. For examples would be the age verification you can see on screen right now. There's also the EU and the UK with their digital ID, basically, where they're containing all the information of like social security number, ID, all on like digital. And for the middle one right here, IGRS, it's the Indonesia game rating system, which backfired on the day they were trying to implement it, as some games were like NSA, like AI generated like not safe for work games. They were in the 3 plus category, or like some games that were like just like Borderlands that had like 8 mature ratings. They were not sold for distribution anymore in Indonesia. So it's more of a execution of AI right now, if you do want to do it, then try to minimize how much data you're trying to collect or try to appease the general audience rather than just simply the government also, since that's also the main issue at least people are having with it, I believe. Oh wait, this one's just I'll go back to that later, but let's just focus on this. IGRS, I believe it only took 1 day before they had to go back to the Peggy RI rating system that's used for Europe. But it just shows like the execution and like the thought process put into it. If you have games that are like coming off the cracks, you want to need to understand why. Do you want to know how is this possible? You need to put effort into it. If you just make something, say it, declare it, you want to make sure it at least like actually works. But there's also the problem of with the concern of data privacy, since with age verification, ID verification, would you trust something like Discord to like use your photo ID, any like personal information to you when there's been like data leaks involving it or concerning persona? That's one of the main reasons why this should be talked about right now in terms of if you do want to focus on video game safety or like for the kids in general, it's also if you're doing it for the kids, then why are you making it to focus on adults too, which seems more of a you're making a database, you want to make it more I want your information. I'm not going to care about like consent. I'm just going to make this game. I'm just going to do this. Then for objectification, there's Roblox and its situation. I believe some people might have heard like things about it, some things like the sexual predators and pedophiles, that which I just said. There's things like the schlep situation, which was a main cause of showing sexual predators and how they reacted, since for that situation, Roblox actually banned like Schlep. He was someone that was personally like groomed or had a traumatizing experience involving that, and he tried to lure out predators. He worked with like local government, and Roblox banned him, saying he was a vigilante that was causing these problems and everything like that, which caused backlash to Roblox based on their actions. It's also not including the fact of how they're safeguarding it. There's things that are happening that are like grooming, masquerading as a kid or someone like their victim, since honestly for Roblox, you don't need to do much. There's censorship in terms of chat, but they can move those conversations to like social media platforms like Discord and everything like that. And then there's letting users access mature content. I will show you in like the bottom picture over there. You'll see what I mean. And then modern games are at least making sure it's safe, since any games, either be it horror because you do you want to let a kid see something horrible like have you heard of things like Poppy Playtime, Squid Game, or like FNAF? Have you ever seen something or by chance seen like one of those kindergarten like AI things where it's just they do it like child friendly or like they just do like the yay and they use characters like that, since for Squid Game, because of how popular it was, I felt that there were people making cartoons or inversions of it rather than like since what happens if a kid wants to like go into more detail or like check it out for real? They're gonna get a face full of like blood, gore, or or like scary, traumatizing lore, at least for kids their age, maybe. Okay, here's what I'm gonna explain for the things like this. Here's an example of a game, Block Fruits. It's just a popular game, a parody of like One Piece. It's just a simulator game. Now, what I'm gonna show you is just me simply just typing up like one term, bathroom, okay? This is what I got from to things like this. I'm not sure if this is safeguarded, but what it is. This this is a game. This is a game. And that's not including things like there are games like Escape from Epstein Island. There's games like making jabs or fun at like presidents like with Donald Trump and Epstein Island. There can be like games that are made poking fun at this. There's things like Coffee Simulator, like roleplay games. If you do want to make a roleplay game, then do you want to do something like this? I believe not. Now, for proposals, make an introductory video requirement. I believe you guys know or kind of know what I mean by have you ever need to take the number nine like sexual like prevention cause that you always have to do like before school starts and everything where okay you need to answer these questions hear about like the videos. This is what I'm talking about. Make the kids watch these at least. Like they'll make them pay attention to watching this at least. That's one idea. Different way to verify users. Is age and ID the only ways to verify your identity in the internet? Since I feel the main appeal of the internet is anonymity. You would want it to be like safe. You don't want your information. You don't want to be doxxed. You want to be safe. Now, there's some ways that can like be happening through there, like with credit cards. Like you can't own a credit card unless you're 18 or older. And if like it's someone else's name, you can put it like, oh, it's parental controls or something like that. I mean, there's test it. Make sure it works for an extent if you really need to have it, since the push for AI age verification in video games or like in social media now, they want it in the operational level for platforms like iPads, Chromebooks, computers. They want to have your age immediately. But do you necessarily need to have that? Is a question to be proposed. How are these people getting through the cracks? Go to the root of the problem. How is it getting hacked? Is it going through third party sites? If it goes to third party sites, how can these third party sites protect themselves from people hacking through them? Is there something we can do there? Is there something in the code where we can like change things up? Is it something where you need to make things a bit more complex for unfortunately the workers that manage like safety in the internet? Do you want to make it harder for them? Since I feel like that's also a thing. Make it a bit harder for people to go through files and stuff like that. Make it so you can't do specific things on your computer. Since apparently someone got hacked because they installed a Roblox cheat that contained malware, and they managed to access their like company employee file or like account, which then they use to get through like company data. Blocking any mature and explicit content behind an account. I assume that this is something that's a general thing that you can see before. If you have games like Dead by Daylight, things if you search up on itch.io or like Steam, where if it's a mature content game, then you're gonna have to put your age in, or you need to have an account. You can't be like on it like without it. You have to have an account. Sites needing your age in order to access their content. And the last one is more of a how desensitized are we, or how much can kids be desensitized to certain content? Should there be a change to censorship in what can be considered safe to see? Such as for mature content, we have things like queer love, like LGBTQT as like a mature content to think about. But would you actually think that should be mature when we had like shows from the 90s or 80s that delved into like concerning or deep topics? When like any like show now, like unless they're like mature rated theme, it feels like they're keeping it safe or cool, which I believe is because they're following the Chinese community guidelines, which is also problem there. If you want to talk about topics or make it a certain topic, then you want to make sure it's actually being be seen, like people can understand it, and it's also horror. At least what I'm gonna put in, like in terms of censorship, with the with Squid Game, Poppy Playtime, or basically anything that's popular that people show, content creators show on the internet, like, oh, if it's a popular game that's like a horror, mature content, kids will probably watch it just because it's their favorite YouTuber playing it or something like that. How like desensitized to violence are they if it's like that? Like, should there be a change into what people consider safe for kids to see? Since the main problem for Roblox was parents assumed this was all a kids for all ages thing where they were like good for their children to be there. But there are problems with suicides, people like joining extremist groups, sexual grooming, all of that on Roblox because of parents assuming, which while half part neglect, it's also Roblox themselves saying, oh, this is an all friendly kids site. You can be on here. With those actions happening on Roblox, would you honestly consider that to be something for kids? It seems more of something for you need to tell your parents immediately. No, Roblox is not safe. They will have something like this. They do not have safeguards where they will explicitly filter it out like contents like itch.io, Steam, where you can type in certain contents or having certain tags. It's also thinking who would like do it. Since for itch.io, usually if you want to go to a mature like site, 18 plus or anything like that, you have to at least type in your age. But an idea also is you also have to search up the name of the game itself. Would you think some like person or like kid would be like, "Oh, I want to like search up find games that involve like incest or rape?" No, because these games that like collective shout protest to payment process like you're getting money from these actions, like you're letting people like promote them or stuff like that. How are they getting this? Since this means that they're manually searching through games, seeing if they have these contents. Since, mind you, for feminist activist group, they do have some problems involving like their motives, I guess. I mean, one like con that people constantly bring up about collective shout is they bring up like the protection or promote cuties, which is, I believe, a kids beauty pageant or whatever on like shows or something like that. There's also things like they banned the sales of Grand Theft Auto in Australia, like at least in public stores. And there's also they want to ban Detroit Become Human because of child abuse. However, in Detroit Become Human, that scene they don't promote child abuse. They show like the negative consequences portrayals of it, and you can even like defend the child. It's like taking a part of something and being like, oh no, this game's promoting it just because it has this one scene. Not like, oh, it's showing the dirty, ugly truth of this action and making sure it's villainized or like showing this is bad. At least that's why I say why it needs to be censored or moderated. Should there be a change? How desensitized or what do kids see now that they don't care much anymore? Okay, and yeah, that is all it. Thank you very much.